Hi folks, welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining me once again. Well, today it's time for a Wingnut Wings kit again, I think, and this is one that we haven't seen before. We saw a similar one of the Eindeckers, but here we've got the Eindecker Fokker E.IV. Now this is a very interesting aircraft in as much as it's an evolution of the Eindecker, where they've added 3 instead of 2 machine guns, so it's very heavily armoured with 50% more firepower than the standard aircraft. So let's take a look. Again, beautiful artwork, you know, which is why we miss Wingnut Wings so much. Everything about it's right, isn't it? It's got a nice sturdy box, beautiful artwork, it's got silver foil lettering and foiling graphics, very, very nicely done. This one is number 29, 32029. On the side we have got a bit of blurb. It says basically the legendary Eindecker, armed with a machine gun synchronised to fire through the prop, made its first kill on the 1st of August 1915, so that's pretty much a year after the start of the war, World War One. It's got an Ober-Russell 80 horsepower licence built as an 80 horsepower Gnome engine, and it's flown by the E1, flown by Max Immelman, who we talked about recently in my other video review. Go and take a look at that, that's very interesting, that one. And it says this is the beginning of the Fokker Scourge. Blah 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 blah, it gives a little bit of blurb, and it says, however, they decided to utilise the wings and tailplane of the E.III and was initially fitted with 3 IMG-08 machine guns, which proved to be 1 gun too many. They mean 1 gun too many in terms of synchronisation, I think. I think it was starting to get out of sync easily and clip the props. And he said that production aircraft did not arrive to larger numbers until March 1916. The extra firepower of the second gun and the ability to keep fighting when 1 gun jammed was a big benefit, however. The weight of the extra gun and ammunition combined, however, created extreme gyroscopic forces of the 160 horsepower rotary engine, meaning that the wing warping Fokker E.IV was not the evolutionary success that they'd hoped for. So it's loading its wings because it's just heavier, okay. By the time the E.IV was able to make its presence now at the front line, the appearance of the highly manoeuvrable French Nieuport and the British DH-2, Nieuport 11, sorry, and the British DH-2 would mark the beginning of the end of the Fokker Scourge. So this is what they considered to be perhaps one of the last ones really before they phased it out. Because it's wing warping via the lines, it's got no ailerons. So it's quite a crude aircraft really, but they're just trying to max it out, I suppose. So let's take a look. As usual, lovely box. As usual, these are all bagged and we won't be opening the bags for obvious reasons, because you can't get these anymore unless you've got a big bank account, and we don't want to spoil it. The good news is we've got the instructions not sealed in a bag, so that we can look at. And we have got some decals there. So let's have a nosy at what we've got. I always like these ones from Wingnut, the small ones, because they're not too big, you know, it doesn't take too long to do. So we'll start off with the decals, and if I can reach my remote control, which I'm just going to bury it somewhere, there it is. I think it'll be better if I can gently put them on there and just move the box, otherwise we have no light. Right, decals, many crosses. And again we have this sort of style where you got the traditional Christian type cross, or this one, or as I call it, the sort of crusade style, which was very much the style used during the crusades many centuries ago. And then you've got the more modern style, and of course later they have a straight cross, which is just the style that continued on into the future. Various different backgrounds here for the rudder. You've got the instrumentation here, and there's a few stencils as well. And on the other side we've got the Wingnut Wings. Has to be said, it's fairly thick photo etch that they used, so you need to make sure you've got a good pair of PE benders, but you've got to use 1, 2, 3 machine gun jackets, curling jackets, and there's the alternative Spandau, because I think this is a generic, it says E.IV, but obviously you've got a choice of Spandau or what's the other machine gun called? Memory's gone. Parabellum, that's the one. Parabellum or Spandau. Looks good. And you've also got there, I don't know if you see this, you've also got the gun sights here, see it? Which I think always look really cool. Very, very nice. Pop that back in its box. And we shall proceed. So, very interesting fact here. It says that the mechanical interrupter gear for the machine guns was patented in 1913 before the war began by Hans Schneider of LVG. But it was not until Fokker perfected it, or a similar inspired design, that it really worked sufficiently well to use it in combat. Lawsuits, though, were filed by Schneider against Fokker and continued up to September 1933. Good grief. So they had a 20-odd year battle in the courts about it. How incredible. Anyway, let's have a look inside. So we've got our traditional Wingnut wings colour call-outs at the beginning, where they go federal standard for the US, Humbrol or Tamiya, and then we've got the sprue trees, and it shows which items are not going to be used by purpling them out. Now, the best bit in Wingnuts, I think, is these brochures or instruction manuals, I should call it. So it starts with the cockpit, and you can see here we've got some really good detail, and yet again it looks like we've got a fuel tank in very close proximity with the pilot. Though he's not actually sitting on it, thankfully, this time. It's just sitting behind him. Sorry, in front. So there's like a stowage box here, which is like a cabinet. It's got a lift up clasp, and you've got quite a comfy looking pilot's bench, seat. And then here we've got various intakes and building up your cockpit and its surrounding framework. And black and white photo here giving you some detail, and it's saying that there's the hand air pump visible, and air and fuel lines. Quite a lot of gubbins going on there. And then you've got your rigging guide here. This is the scary part, isn't it? And the cockpit painting guide, which is always helpful on these models. It's a really big attraction for the Wingnut Wings kits, is that they have this lovely clarity about the way that they should, the way that you should portray the aircraft in terms of colours. Although there is a lot of question marks about some of the external colours, because there was very few colour photographs around, of course, that you can rely on anyway. Because it's very easy to get the wrong shade, but frankly I don't think it matters, because I think that they were just using any old paint that suited them. Certainly in the field they were. Anyway, fuselage. Here we've got the two halves coming together, which sort of fix on the back of this cockpit area that you've already constructed. You've got the firewall then at the front, and it says here, although this is a poor quality print of a Fokker E.IV, it does show the extended side cowls, which were used on several of the prototypes. Then we've got our machine gun. Now this is where it gets interesting. Let's just zoom you in a bit for this. Machine guns, here we are. So we've got our Spandau 08, and then there's an option where you can have just two of them if you only want two instead of three, but the three looks cool, doesn't it? That would be my choice, I think. They were mounted at an angle, it says, not straight. How interesting. 15-degree angle, which is reconcilable with the visual records available to us. It's measured with the aircraft resting on the ground, not positioned horizontally. So they're tipped up 15 degrees, upward angle, that is. Interesting. And then you've got the more conventional two-gun frontage to it. Two-gun arrangement. The fuel gauge and the circular foresights of the early cooling jackets. There we go. So the earlier cooling jackets are a bit more enclosed, and they're a bit more open on the later ones. So it's more open for this one, a bit more enclosed for this one. That's why the photo etch was different. Again, I've said this before, but the Wingnut Wings paper is so beautiful and thick. I think you've got 3 pages and it's not, it's only 1. Then we've got our Gnome, or 160 horsepower Oberusel U3, because I think the Gnome was the smaller one, wasn't it? So this is the beefed up engine that they have on the 4 model. Here we've got quite a nice picture. And you can see there all the tensioning wires that creates the wing warping effect that makes it twist and obviously fly the way you want it to, instead of having ailerons. Cowlings here, various elements to be done there. You've got to drill some holes and clear some room for the flash guards. This is obviously to protect the engine from the machine gun flash. And then we've got the undercarriage going in here, such as it is. It's like a pram, isn't it, really, by modern standards. And then you've got these shots. You can see here you've got the 3 machine guns very clearly. And obviously there is these cooling vents as well that they've got in the front of the cowl, you can see there. Undercarriage detail, showing the attachment points and the control horns. And here we've got the fairing and deflector plate that was used in the prototype. Then we have the starboard wing, remove compass detail for the prototype, because the prototype didn't bother with the compass. And then you get the rudders in here, and the elevator control horns, which are massive. Not subtle at all. Look at that. That's got to be about 6 or 7 inches high. That horn, massive. And over here we've got the cowling and the cockpit combing detail area around the cockpit, the little windshield. It says here, almost no 2 Fokker Irondeckers were ever assembled the same way. We have done our best to capture the usual aluminium panel details. They will not be 100% accurate for all versions. Gosh. So that's why they've got different aluminium panels in the kit. I noticed that. I was briefly flicking through it. It says here, Max Immelman, the man himself, checks the wing mounted compass, which obviously you don't have on the prototype. Cobain strut turnbuckle and wing warping control pulley here. Detailed from A. Note the wire threaded through the turnbuckles to prevent them from working loose. Yeah, so they're wired up. And then we have the anemometer, which is also sitting strangely out on the wing. Kind of a curious place for it, but there we go. They want it to be clear of the prop, that's why they want a true wind speed. And then we've got 2 types of propeller, integral propeller or a Garuda. And then we've got the fuel pump, which is basically driven by a kind of a ram air turbine setup, just a little propeller. And then we've got a picture here with 3 unidentified E.IV s. Note the black and white unit markings on the outside of the wheels. Oh yes, okay. And then a close up here of a front of one of the E.IV s. Then we have the rigging guide or diagram. It looks a bit scary. And yes, I'm not sure about this. There's a lot of rigging on this one. Look at it. Oh, no, stuff that nightmares are made of. People say, you've not made one of these yet. They keep saying, no, not yet. I don't wonder why. Anyway, then you finish, and then you move on to some of the fine detail work, and you've got your colour guides here. Anthony Fokker and Otto Paschau were the test pilots. You've got this great photo here of the 3 cannons, Spandaus I should say, firing forward. And you can see this very clearly here. You can see that 15-degree angle, how they point up slightly. So if you got sort of behind and slightly below your enemy, that was probably a great position to take him on when you're flying one of these. It says, note the turned metal effect on the aluminium cowls. Very nice. You can see that there very clearly, can't you? On the bulkhead. See on the bulkhead there. You see it on the cowls here. And then we've got Max Immelmann, our friend and hero for Germany. January 1916. It's 15 victories he had with this. And he was flying a 2-gunner, it seems, according to that. And we've got Max Immelmann peers out from the cockpit of a fully cowed cockpit of the Fokker E.IV. He received this aircraft in January 1916 and used it almost exclusively until his death in June 1916. Gosh. Couple of photos here of the E.IV with the 2-gun setup, which I think most of these photos are. They're really showing these reference photos for other things like the cabane struts and the undercarriage setup, etc. And some of the markings, of course, and the colourings as well. Most of them were withdrawn from service by December 1916, it says here. And we've got Lieutenant Muller-Kest. We've got Kurt Student, that's a good name. Kurt Student. And that is a 3-gunner, that's a 2-gunner again. And then here we've got a couple of final photos. Kurt Student posing by his aircraft. And talk about the different propeller designs as well. Oswald Bulke. I never get his name right. Bulke. An unidentified final production E.IV reported at livery on his way to Army Flugpark 5 in mid-1916. Distinctive vertical staining of the fuselage fabric in front of the White Cross and the Garuda propeller of the late style Eisenkreuz. That's the one, Eisenkreuz. That's the what I call the Crusader type cross. And it says here, unique 3 machine gun armament above the cowling. And it's this is Fokker E.IV 122/15. So I think it sounds like it was fairly limited to one prototype, having the 3 guns. And it says the Fokker E.IV 160/16 was the 4th and final production of the batch of 30 aircraft ordered in February of 16. The serial number has been repainted toward the rear of the fuselage and after being obliterated by the castor oil exhaust. So they've completely repainted it, look there. With some white over and then put black on top. The port wheel cover is not a standard Fokker item. Okay. No, it doesn't look like a Fokker one, does it? It looks like a British one, though. How odd. And then finally, of course, we have the heroes at Wingnut Wings who made this all possible. And there we have the instructions. Sorry if I was a bit long-winded there, but you start reading this stuff and it just draws you in. It's like, oh, this is really interesting stuff. You know, it's addictive, really. Addictive. Right, let's have a look at the plastic then, as best we can. We have got here what looks like the Spandau machine gun, Parabellum machine gun, and the Fokker wheel covers that we just spoke of, actually. So you can see what I mean, that it doesn't normally have the hole in for the tyre pressure valve. I think we had them out the side, and you can see there is no hole in them, unlike that photo we just saw. And then you've got your little machine guns, Parabellum, with and without jacket. Obviously this is a plastic jacket. If you don't fancy the photo etch, or you can put the photo etch and do it properly, put it on yourself. Although it has to be said that that is somewhat easier said than done. You need to have some skill with photo etch bending if you're going to do that, because it's a little bit tricky. There's 2 of those sprues, by the way. Same. And then we have got the wing. It never feels so amazing when I pick these up, you know, it's all the same. Pick up the Wingnut Wings sprue, wings, perfectly flat, no warping. It's been precision injection moulded. It's not damaged and bent and broken like Meng did with the triplane, which they messed up really. Such a shame that Wingnut Wings never brought that triplane out right at the beginning. I still can't quite get my head around why that would have been their best seller probably, and they hung on to it and hung on to it, and they made all these other elaborate and not so well known aircraft. Some of them are quite unknown, unless you're a World War One expert, but relatively speaking, in general popular culture in terms of what people know about the First World War, why they held back this Fokker triplane like they did, I don't know. I think that it should have been getting that and the Camel out at the beginning and then carrying on. There's nothing wrong with the product range, but carry on with that later once you've started to make some money. And they sort of didn't do that. They put a lot of the unusual stuff out first, and then, well, I think the venture became uneconomic for lots of reasons, but we don't know them all, I don't think. I'm digressing. Anyway, the beauty of this is it physically looks perfect. It looks nice and true. You've got the two different propeller types here. You can see all the beautiful ribs in the wing as well. Look at that. Lovely ribbing. You've got your Garuda propeller, I think it is this one. And then you've got the standard one there. Is that the other way around? I always get mixed up. But you can see the way that they've got the sort of ribbing tape that is on the true aircraft, represented very, very well. And obviously what you need to do is use some of these highlighting techniques to try and create a slight impression of translucence, shall we say. So there's still quite a thin wing on the Iron Decker. Another thick wing. And we have some engine parts now. In fact, we have two identical sprues, so we'll just get the one that's in the best bag. So we'll keep the other one. This one. So we've got our 160 horsepower Oberrussel engine, which looks fine indeed. See all the cylinders here. Looks nice, doesn't it? Yeah. Such fine detail. All the little bolts and nuts can be seen. Beautiful. It actually says it's the Gnome 80 horsepower one here, but it also names the other. Yeah, it says Oberrussel 160 PS as well. So it actually names here. You can see that it names the three variants there. Get it without the reflections. I'm not going to see. There we go. Okay. Now, big screw. What have we got here? We've got, too big for the camera. We have cowling, complete with, that's interesting, the cowling here, it sort of shows it, look on the other side, you can see it's got the vents, intake vents, cooling vents, but they're not actually cut out for you, which is interesting. And from that photo I saw, okay. We have two versions, so just to make this clear so you know I'm not just babbling away here. Here's the first version, where it's all blanked off, solid, and here is the second version, where it's got the vents open. So anyway, back to the stroke. Digressing, I realised that was wrong straight away, at least for some of the variants. So they give you both options. Here you've got your three machine gun sort of cowling with a bit of an air vent in it for cooling, I think, where your machine guns sit, which is cool. I like the idea of the three machine gun one, that's very cool. Then we've got your cockpit combing here, he says, there. And these are the ammo boxes here, if I'm not mistaken. Got the bulkheads, several bulkheads, we've got the framework, some linkages, looks like the hand air pump, I think, or maybe the fuel pump actually. No, it'll be the air primer pump, won't it, or fuel primer pump, hand primer. And then we've got these little cockpit sides here, and again, you know, No flash, no ejection pins where there shouldn't be. All good. All great, not good. Good is not strong enough a word really for these. And here we go again. So this is the other option. Now we've got the sides of the fuselage and the combing. Here's the combing that goes behind the cockpit. Here's the cockpit, the combing around the cockpit itself. And actually I've got a part's a little bit loose there, so just be careful of that. Looks like it's coming off the sprue. But, looks gorgeous. We've got some seat material here, look at this. This is the cushion of the seat, you see that? It's got the buttons in it, in the leather, how wonderful. That's fantastic. Yeah, it looks gorgeous, doesn't it? Fantastic, fantastic. Oh, and sorry, I skipped over. Just noticed us putting it away. Here is the 2 machine gun cowling, as opposed to the first one we saw. Right, and then last but not least, we actually got 2 sprues. Like we've got a clear sprue, such as it is. It's very small. Yeah, here we go. This is just those little visors we spoke of. A couple of different versions of the visors. And the much missed Wingnut Wings logo. And finally, we have got this one, which has got quite a lot of those other parts in it, things like tailplanes, or elevators I should say. The rudder, which is here, that's rather unusual shaped, typical Fokker, almost cartoonish rudder. Yeah. And then you've got your various struts, support struts. I think that's for on the top here, the central support strut. Then you've got some more machine gun action going on here. That's a little bit of duplication on the other sprue, I think, but that's not a problem. Another version of the seat here, with another seat cushion with the buttons in it. So there's quite a lot of parts that are obviously applicable to more than one kit. I just noticed that the machine gun's barrel's bent. It's not a major problem because I think there's more than one in the kit. This one, can you see it? It's slightly bent. That's probably happened in transit, I think. It should be straight, not like that. I'm not going to touch it because I don't make it any worse. But yeah, I don't think the barrel should be bent at quite that angle somehow. I think it's just caught something in the box. It looks wonderful, doesn't it? It's just another masterpiece, you know. All the and I tell you what there is. Oh, now then. Now I'm not going to miss it this time. Guess what I've just spotted? Before I've been a bit remiss. We've missed these small parts. Well, I haven't missed it today. This time, for your entertainment, we have Teddy Bear. Okay. There he is, little Ted. See him? That's fantastic. See, that's as close as my camera can get. There we go. Can't get any closer than that. But that is the little teddy bear. So obviously, a little bit of an overlap with what we saw in the Roland C2, was it? We've got a teddy bear included now. We do enjoy it when we get a teddy bear in our Wingnut Wings. It's almost like a bonus tool, isn't it? That's absolutely brilliant. I still can't get over these teddy bears, and they're extremely funny. Well, there you go. Well, that's really cheered me up. That's really helped to boost the kit's rating. Not that it needed a lot of boosting, I don't think, to be honest. So, what do we think? Just zoom you back out again. Somebody said in the other review, in the other Iron Decker, I think it was, with the Max Himmelman one, I don't think the teddy bear was included. And he said, no teddy bear, and I said, no teddy bear. Like, oh, you must feel people disappointed, you know. Well, you get a teddy bear in this one, folks, so there you go. It's the Fokker Iron Decker E.IV with the optional 3 machine gun cowl. I think that's fantastic, and that's better than the Himmelman one. But of course, you don't get a figure with this one, so you kind of gain something and lose something. Absolutely brilliant. 10 out of 10. there's nothing to find fault with, is there? Really, I've said it before. You know, what is there in there that's disappointing? Nothing. Not a sausage, and you get a teddy bear. If it was even going to be just a 9, it would get an extra point for the teddy bear. So there you go. Hope I get a good rating from you, and you give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there'll be more of this kind of thing coming out in the not too distant future. Can't promise teddy bears every time though. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And if you have subscribed, don't forget to ding the notification bell, because that will give you advanced early warning about the next video that's about to come out. And I guess it just remains for me to say thank you very much for joining me, and great to have your company as always. Always love your comments. Please comment below what you think, and any others you think are interesting, or if you built it, let me know what your experience was. And in the meantime, between now and the next review, I'll just say thanks a lot for joining me. Hope you all stay safe and stay well. Look after yourselves. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.